Point this out again, the setup guide is a great place to reference as you're getting set up and onboarded. So if you have any questions at any moment, this is a great place to refer back to. And when you're connecting accounting, there's some additional resources here if you have any questions after today's session. But it's the accounting session, so we're going to click accounting. And if you're following along, it's kind of in the middle of the gray tab over here. So I'm just going to click accounting. And since I haven't set it up yet, I'll be brought to this page where I can either get started or select someone from my team to set it up. All right, so hopefully you're the right person from your team to set this up, but if you're not, you can select someone else to set it up. So I would click here, and then I could just choose my teammate from the list of options, or I could invite them here hitting this plus sign. But assuming everyone is the right person, we're going to hit get started. And so we have direct integrations with these 5 providers. So QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, Xero, NetSuite, and Sage. We also have, like I mentioned earlier, the ability to export with a universal CSV. So if you are doing that and you're not connecting with one of our direct providers, what you would do is you would search your provider. It might come up if you've searched it before or if Ramp recognizes it. So let's say we're using Bench. We would search that and then go from there. And then, oh, okay, well hold on, let me disconnect. That should not have worked. It should take me to the step where I import my chart of accounts. It might not today because, well, I'll just keep going today for the sake of time. But basically, if you are exporting via Universal CSV, you'll click that and you'll select your provider. And then from there, you'll be prompted to import your chart of accounts, which is just your segment ID and names. And we'll go through that more in the session this afternoon. So if you are planning on exporting via Universal CSV, attend that session and we'll cover all of that there. But for today, we'll be working out of our direct integrations, and we'll be connecting via QuickBooks Online. So I'm going to select that, and then I'm going to click connect, and it might have me log in, it might not, sometimes it depends. Okay, so I'm going to sign in. So if you're doing this, you would just sign in as well. Okay, I'm going to click connect. And it'll just take a second, so bear with it while it loads. And if you're connecting right now, it might ask you some additional questions. But this sync should be done in just a second. Okay, I'm going to refresh my page. Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing for a second and then do this, refresh my page without sharing. That might work. Sometimes doing the live storm with the Ramp account is like too much technology. So let's see if that sync worked. Okay, great. So let me share my screen again. So now I am brought to this page. And if you are connecting for the first time, it might have you answer a few additional questions. It just depends. So I'll give you about 30 seconds to connect right now if you're following along. And if you're connecting via QuickBooks Online like I did, you should have been prompted to enter in a Ramp credit card liability account. And that is for all of your Ramp transactions. So I'll show where to connect this if you don't, if you weren't prompted to do it or if you didn't do QuickBooks Online in just a moment. But if you did QuickBooks Online like I did, that's correct that you would have been prompted to create that. All right, so now I'm going to click Settings, on the right. So again, I'm just in accounting on the left, and then I'm clicking settings in the top right. And I'm going to click this first tab that says default accounts. Click that. And so this is where we set up all of our statement accounts for accounting. So our first one is this primary statement payment account. It's a checking account. So if I wanted to do a different account, I could just click this drop down and choose a different available account if I had one. And then this is where I'll choose if it's a checkings or savings account. So I'll select checking. And then this, when I just mentioned that Ramp credit card liability account, that is the account that all of your transactions that you make on Ramp cards will be associated with in your ERP. So later, when you're looking in your accounting system, you need this account to show that, okay, those are all of my Ramp transactions. And that's just for you to easily associate any charges on Ramp into your ERP. So we recommend calling this something super simple like Ramp card. That's our suggestion. If you want to go as far as to say Ramp credit card liability account, you could. Bit of a mouthful, so you might as well shorten it to Ramp card. But whatever will let you know, whatever's easiest, that will let you know, okay, these are the transactions that are from my Ramp account when I'm looking at them in my ERP. You'll need a cash back account. So this is for you to know what your cash back is, and then it's different from your business's other revenue and income. So we recommend calling this something like other income, miscellaneous, or miscellaneous income. So today, let's go with miscellaneous. But again, any of those names will work. Basically just something that will differentiate it for you, like what this is basically. And then you'll need a reimbursement account if you plan on doing reimbursements. So we'll choose the same checking account. And then from there, we'll need an AP account for that reimbursement account. So we'll select that AP account. And then if we plan on doing bill pay with Ramp, we'll need an account for that. So I'll just select this checking account, then checking, and then that AP account as well. And then lastly, if you plan on doing any foreign currency with Ramp, you'll need to select that account as well. I'll skip this for today. Maybe my business doesn't handle any foreign currency and doesn't do any international transactions, so we can just skip that. But again, we have that primary payment account. We have that Ramp card account, which is my credit card liability account. We have that miscellaneous, which is that cash back account. And then if I'm planning on doing reimbursements, I've selected that checking account and that AP account. If I'm planning on doing bill pay, I selected that checking account and that AP account. And maybe I don't plan on doing any foreign currency. So from there, we'll hit Save Changes. Also, I want to note that if you're linking 0, I don't know if anyone said that they are on 0 today. Looking through the chat to see if anyone is on 0. But if you are planning on linking 0, it will ask you to create a code for the specific bank account that you're linking for the cash account. So if that's the case, that's correct, and you should see that. But that is just for the 0 integration. Okay, great. So like I said, I saved changes. And now I'm going to go back into settings. So I'm still in accounting, and I'm just going back to settings. And I'm going to this next tab of manage accounting fields. And I'm going to click on that. Oh. Okay. And this is a good time to show you. This is, I wasn't expecting it to pop up this way, but this is a good time to show you if you want your employees to code, you need to customize that in your expense policy. So we'll just do this now instead of later, but we'll click here and that'll take us to our settings. So I'll show you how to actually get there without just clicking here, but settings at the bottom and then expense policy. And in the platform overview, whenever we saw accounting, I was like, okay, we're going to skip this and come back to it in the accounting session. So in transaction requirements, we'll click on general expenses. That's just going to apply to the majority of my employees. So we'll click edit and we'll say, okay, hold on. We'll just require that. It should pop up with accounting. Hold on. Or I'll just create, okay, here we go. I'll just create here we go. So these are all of the QuickBooks categories. It might just say accounting category for you if you're not on QuickBooks, but this is where I would require my employees to code to this if I want them to do so. So we'll just say that the QuickBooks category is required right now for transactions above $75. And we'll skip the rest of them for right now. But if you wanted your employees to have to code to vendor or additional fields like customer code, job code, or anything billable, you could do so here as well. But for right now, this example, we'll just choose QuickBooks category. We'll hit Save Changes. And now I'll go back to accounting, back to settings, back to manage accounting fields. And then it will bring up these different categories that show what fields Ramp is syncing to from my accounting system. So this first one that you'll notice is category, and that's what we've associated with your chart of accounts. So I'm going to click edit. And so in Ramp, we're calling it QuickBooks category. You can customize this. You can change it to say accounting category, or you could go as far as to say GL code or GL category. Whatever you want to name it, you can customize it that way. And then helper text, this will appear when you hover over it. So it'll help your team know, okay, what's kind of expected of me right here? Like, what is the QuickBooks category? If they don't know, you could put like GL code right here. So people know, okay, when it's asking me for that QuickBooks category, it's just the GL code or whatever would be helpful for your team. So I'll save that. But again, that's optional. It's just, this is for you to customize to make it a bit more digestible for your team. And then going off of that, making it even more digestible, it's unlikely that your employees, or at least all of them, will be coding to all 90 QuickBooks categories. Maybe some people will, but at least for me, I'm not spending in ways that I'd be coding to every single category. So what you can do is you can narrow down this list to make it even more digestible for your team. So I'm going to click edit again right here. And then from here, I can toggle on or off these different categories. So let's say I go through this list and I know, okay, my team's not really coding to that one. They're not really coding to that one. Maybe we, what else? Maybe we don't do any like installation projects, so we're not coding to that one. And maybe I know we're not really doing any decks and patios. Like, this is all super specific, so maybe I can turn those off as well. But let's say for whatever reason I need to turn them back on. Super simple. You just toggle on and off. And then you can go through this whole list and kind of narrow it down to make it easier for your team. Okay, great. And then if we scroll down, so this is a Ramp Plus feature, but I'll just quickly show it and what it looks like. So if I click create workflow, this is creating these if-then statements. So you're saying if maybe I go with maybe if my department is growth, maybe my sales team, my marketing team, my growth team. So if my Ramp department is growth, then the categories that will be displayed are things like travel. Maybe they go to lots of conferences and they eat when they're at these conferences, or client trips or offsites. So they need travel meals. Maybe they need entertainment. Maybe they take clients out for drinks and lunch and coffee, so meals and entertainment. Maybe they need miscellaneous, just for those miscellaneous charges that incur. And maybe they need job materials just to have as like extra things. I don't know what that would be. Maybe like setting up a booth at a conference or something like that. So maybe we just stick with those categories. So by creating this, I'm saying if the Ramp department is growth, then the only categories that will be displayed are job materials, meals and entertainment, and then I said like travel meals, and miscellaneous. And you can keep making these if-then statements based on anything like departments, specific employees, specific locations, so on and so forth. So that is how you make those workflows. We go out of that now. Oh, okay. And then So I'm going to go back into accounting fields. And so that was just our category. That was just our chart of accounts. But you can do the same thing for vendor, customer code, job codes, anything that you would like to customize. So if I go into vendor, I can do the same thing. I can narrow down from 58 vendors or however many I have, and I can toggle certain ones on or off for certain employees or teams or departments, whatever it may be, to make this more helpful and just like easier for my team to understand, for me to understand, everything like that. And then the same for like customer codes, job codes. I can have my helper text, I can narrow down my list, and I can create those workflows on Ramp Plus. Great. So I'm going to go out just to show you where I am again. I'm still in accounting. I'm still in settings. We did default accounts. We just did manage accounting fields. Now I'm going to click accounting automation. So this is where you can start to create these different rules to further customize your accounting and make it a little bit easier and eventually help automate it. So this first one that we'll click into is Ramp category to QuickBooks category. And again, if you're not on QuickBooks, it might just say accounting category. So I'm going to click this. And this is where you can say, okay, the Ramp category, so that's kind of the most broad, universally recognized category. Things like advertising or airlines. As you can see, the first two examples. And so this is saying, okay, if the Ramp category is alcohol and bars, then maybe I know my team is only going to be spending at alcohol and bars if they are doing the accounting category of meals and entertainment. So I can say, okay, anytime my team spends at alcohol and bars, they know they're only meant to do that if they're entertaining clients or if they are entertaining their team at a company trip or something like that. So I can safely say the Ramp category to QuickBooks category could be set up like this. I can go further and say, okay, anytime my team makes transactions at car rental companies or car services companies, I know they're traveling. So I could say, okay, car rental is travel and car services like Uber, taxi, all of that is, if I can spell, is travel as well. So I can go through all of these and continue creating those rules. I'll hit save rules. And then it's applying the rule updates. That'll take a second. Great. And then I can continue making them for merchants as well. So if I can say Ramp merchant to QuickBooks category or accounting category. So I'll click here and I'll say, okay, if the Ramp merchant is Airbnb, so if my team or any of my employees make a transaction at Airbnb, I'm going to associate it with that QuickBooks category of travel. Let's say I know my team is only spending at Airbnb if they're at a team trip or a company offsite or whatever reason they would be booking a stay with Airbnb. I know it's going to be associated with travel. I can do another one. Let's find like a software. Chili Piper. That's a software that my sales team uses to book meetings with. So I could say, okay, anytime the Ramp merchant is Chili Piper, I know that's going to be associated with the QuickBooks category of, I can spell, dues and subscriptions. So I can continue creating these rules, so on and so forth like that. So I'll save those rules. Okay, so that's one way to make the rules is directly within the settings tab. So again, just to show where I am, settings, we did default accounts, we did manage accounting fields. Accounting automation is where you can create these rules. And then last thing in the settings is the danger zone. So if you came to the platform overview, you heard me say the same thing, but in life, if you encounter a danger zone, it's best to avoid it. The same goes for the Ramp platform. If you encounter a danger zone, you don't need to poke around, you don't need to click on anything unless you really need to be there. And that is because there's no feature to save before disconnecting. So if I were to disconnect right now, all of these rules that I'm starting to set up, all of these ways I'm starting to automate my accounting, coding, make things easier for myself, that will not save. You'll always be able to pull your transaction and sync history because that's history. Like exists that way. But these rules, they will not be saved if you disconnect. So if you're switching ERPs, that's pretty much the only reason to disconnect. Otherwise, don't hit disconnect, because all the work that you've done to set up your accounting page will vanish. And if you're switching ERPs, definitely reach out to our team to let us know as well, just so people are looped into that before you disconnect. Okay. Great. So now I'm going to go back into the main accounting page. So it looks a lot like the transactions page, except it's the accounting version of all of your transactions. But much like the transactions page, you can search and filter to find specific transactions. So if I click search and filter, I can look at them by a specific dollar amount. I can go by card merchant and see all of my transactions at Home Depot. I can go by specific card holder, and I can see all of Patrick, okay, he doesn't have any. Bad example. I can go look at all of Alice's. Okay, she also doesn't have any. My fake employees are not spending. Andrew, great. So I can look at all of Andrew's transactions and see them here. I can also go by department or a specific location. And then I can look at all of my accounting categories as well. Submission policy status, specific team. If I just want to see James's team, I can see all of those transactions broken down by cardholder. So there's a lot of ways to narrow this page down and make it easier for you to view. And that's kind of everything we're trying to do with Ramp Accounting, is make it easier for you. Speed things up, make it more digestible, make it more seamless, make it more of an enjoyable process overall. So that's how you can search and filter. And then, of course, you can go by date as well, look at your current statement or last month, so on and so forth. And then this little button here is where you can choose to view or not view certain columns. So if for whatever reason I didn't want to see the dollar amount, I could unselect that. And then now it goes away from what I'm viewing. But I do want to see that. So I'll select it back. Okay, great. So we talked about how to make those rules within the settings. So going from like Ramp Merchant to QuickBooks Category, or Ramp Category to QuickBooks Category. You can also create the rules here. So when you're looking at these different transactions, as you'll see, QuickBooks Category, all of these require it. And when I hover over these little check marks, I can't select them because the QuickBooks Category is required. So if I go to, okay, let's say Uber. This is, let's see, who is this? This is John's trip. He's at a conference from Tucson to Phoenix. So I could say, okay, I know that John used this Uber trip for travel. So I could say, okay, the QuickBooks Category will be travel. I can select that. And then from there, now when I hover over the check mark, instead of saying QuickBooks Category required, I'm able to check it. And so by checking it, I'm marking it ready to sync. So notice right here where it says sync all, can't click it. It's gray. It like has a little no thing when I try to click it. But if I hit mark ready to sync, now it goes up into that sync button. We'll get to that in a few minutes, but that is how I can choose the individual category at the individual transaction level and then mark it as ready. A few of these, when I made that rule that said, okay, anytime alcohol and bars is the Ramp category, it's going to be associated with that QuickBooks or accounting category of meals and entertainment. So I already made that rule in the settings. So those look great. It's alcohol and bars, dinner with, a client, and then lunch at the airport. Great. So those both look right. Maybe I want to change this to travel meals, actually, if we know that that was lunch at the airport, but that's a super way to change it. You can just look at them and change it. And then maybe I want to mark these as ready because they're good to go. They have all their requirements, so on and so forth. But this would take a little while to do it for every single transaction. I know right now we have 382, but there might be months where you have thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions based on how big your company is and your spending patterns. So I would get pretty tedious doing it for every single transaction. So much like creating those rules in the settings, you can create shortcuts here within the actual transactions. So let's say we want to search for a specific merchant, maybe United Airlines. Let's see if we have any transactions with them. Great. So we have a handful of United Airlines transactions that all need that QuickBooks category. So we could say, okay, United Airlines, Linda, flight to LAX. Maybe I know she was just at a client offsite or something like that. So we could say, okay, United Airlines, whenever that is the merchant, it's going to be associated with travel. But instead of just clicking travel for the singular transaction, if I hover over this little lightning bolt, I can click it to create the rule. So I'm going to click create rule. And from here, I can say, okay, if a transaction includes the merchant of United Airlines, so not just this individual transaction anymore, transaction of United Airlines, it's going to be associated with the QuickBooks category or the accounting category of travel. So if I create that rule, it's now applied to all of my United Airlines transactions, which is only 4 for this example. But as you can see, I can mark them all ready to sync right now. So if I click mark ready, boom, 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 those all go up to that sync button. So that's how you can make it at the merchant level. Let's take it one step further. You can also make it at the category level. So let's look for, okay, I have a couple of hotels here. So I have this Aloft, this Marriott hotel, and then I have another Marriott hotel, but it's a different one. So I could make it at the individual level and say, okay, anytime this hotel is the merchant, that's going to be associated with travel. Or I could take it one step further and click over here. And instead of, again, just clicking travel for this individual transaction, I'm going to click create rule. And so instead of doing it just for the merchant, that'll only knock out one unsynced transaction. So that's not really speeding anything up. I can say, okay, anytime the category is lodging. So hotels, Airbnbs, other rental services, if you're like staying at a hostel or something. I don't know what other lodging things would be, but anytime the category is lodging, it will be associated with the QuickBooks category of travel. So if I create that rule, it should apply to both of these right here. Yep. And then we probably have a few more that we can find as well that just it applied to. So I can mark both of those as ready to sync. And then let's quickly go through. Great, here's that Airbnb. And now I made that rule earlier specifically at Airbnb, but if I hadn't made that rule, that would have also applied because as you can see, the category is lodging on this specific transaction. So I can mark that as ready. And then, great, one more hotel, Citizen M, that's a hotel here in New York. So that was associated with travel because it's the ramp category of lodging. So now I can mark that one as ready as well. Great. So I made it at the merchant level of United Airlines. I made it at the category level of lodging. I can also make it at the card level. So let's say, Let's say the merchant is LinkedIn. And as you can see, I have a handful of LinkedIn transactions. And maybe my company uses LinkedIn in a few different ways. Maybe my recruiting team uses LinkedIn to purchase like recruiting software and find different candidates to work here and interview. Maybe my sales team uses it to reach out to prospective clients that we want to get on board. And maybe my growth team uses it to do like different social and brand strategy like experiments. And then finally, maybe we buy a LinkedIn premium subscription for everyone on my team. So it's also considered like a SaaS and software charge. So basically, needless to say, there's a lot of different ways we're using this specific merchant. So it might not make sense to make the rule at the merchant or category level because that might change depending on who is making the transaction. So instead of just saying like dues and subscriptions here, I'll click that. Wait, hold on. I'm looking for a specific card. Sometimes it pops up, sometimes it doesn't. So if it doesn't, we'll just pretend together. But if it does, okay, we'll just go with this first one and we'll click dues and subscriptions. For the sake of this example, pretend that these two are switched and that it's actually a SaaS and software card instead of office supply. So just pretend. So again, maybe the merchant doesn't make the most sense. Maybe the category, it's not always going to be SaaS and software if it's recruiting or advertising or something like that. So pretend this is a SaaS and software card. But we could say, okay, anytime that this SaaS and software card is used, it's going to be associated with the QuickBooks category of dues and subscriptions. So I can create that rule. I'll add that rule. It'll apply it. Great. So now I can mark these two transactions as ready if they were both that dues and subscriptions card. Awesome. So now I'll clear that, and now I'm just back in my general, all of my transactions. So I'm starting to create these rules that help me speed up my coding, help me check multiple things at once. Maybe I can check these other ones too if the rules applied. And now I have, this sync all button is growing a bit. It was 0 originally, and now I have 16 things in there. So the goal for this whole page is to get it cleared, to get all of these transactions out of there, because once you code a transaction and sync it over to your team's ERP, it'll disappear from this page. So if it's gone, that means you coded it correctly and it's synced over to your ERP correctly. And you don't want any uncoded transactions lingering here at the end of month end close, because it'll just take more time and be more to deal with at month end. So we recommend coming back to this page like once a week or every other week, just to code your transactions and clear them out. So I'm going to click Sync All now in the top right. And this, where it says review and sync, this is the last step to review everything before you sync it over. So the great news is everything syncs over fully coded. And once they sync over, there's no need for you to take any action within your ERP. Like, it is good to go if you have coded them, they look correct, and they sync over successfully. However, going off of that, once they leave this page, they cannot come back into Ramp. So you really want to review them, make sure they're good to go before you sync them over, because they cannot go back into Ramp. You'd have to make any changes to the transactions within your ERP. So you code them here, all of that looks good to go. If you review it and you sync them over, you're done. No need to take any action. But if you need to make any changes, they can't come back into Ramp. So just make sure everything looks good to go before syncing it over. And then also, we don't automate any syncing. We'll help you create all these codes. We're going to try to speed up your coding process and get everything cleared out for you as fast as you can and make the whole accounting process more seamless. But these are your transactions. This is your company's money. We don't know if they're completely accurate. Only you know how people should be spending based on your rules and the policies that you've set up as a company. So you'll have to initiate this sync. We won't automate that for you. But we'll go through these transactions, and let's say, I just want to make sure with Linda, this is a pretty hefty charge, and I just want to make sure that's correct and that she wasn't, it's not a duplicate charge, or it wasn't doubled incorrectly or something like that. But let's say the rest of them look good, but for whatever reason, I just want to review this Airbnb charge with Linda one more time. So I can uncheck it, and by unchecking it, I'm marking it as not ready, and it'll go back into this transactions page for me to review one more time. But let's say the rest of the transactions look correct. I can sync them over to QuickBooks. So I hit sync to QuickBooks, and then it has a little confetti because it's excited that we synced them over. So it's still syncing. Okay, and great. Now it has successfully synced 15 transactions. So if I want to see my sync history, I can click these 3 little dots right here and click sync history. And for the sake of today's example, I'm James in my account in my fake company. But today's the 6th. That's the sync that I just made. So that is where you see that sync history. However, if at your company, like a real company, I'm working out of a fake company right now. But of course, at a real company, I would have further history than just the one I just did. Great. And so you can keep doing that. You can keep creating these rules, whether in the settings, within within accounting automation by creating the rules there, or you can make them directly within the transactions on the transactions directly. And then I can just keep marking them as ready, checking them off, and then syncing them over eventually. And then eventually I'll get this page cleared out. And that means I'll be a little bit closer to being done with my month end close. There's a few more things I want to point out, but sometimes we get questions about where to download receipts, so I think it's helpful to point out. I'm going to click Expenses and then Transactions. And right here where you see this little arrow, it's Download Transactions. So I'm going to click on that. And then right here, I can download a zip file of all of my receipts, and it will be broken out by cardholder, which is super nice to know. I can go by a specific date range, and if I wanted to see maybe just my previous statement, all of the receipts from that, I could click Download Transactions. I have that previous statement in the date range, and I could hit Download a zip file of my receipts. We just get questions about that a lot, so wanted to point it out. But yeah, that is pretty much everything, if it'll take me back, within the accounting page. If I have anything ready to sync, I don't just have to hit that button, but I could hit ready to sync here as well. Great, and then I could just do it at the individual level instead of in that sync button if I wanted to. All right, so just making sure that I have gone over everything. Okay, so we've covered a lot today about accounting. We talked about how to connect your accounting software. So that's at the beginning, choosing your ERP, whether it's one of our direct integrations or exporting via our universal CSV feature, how to set up that RAMP credit card liability account. So we recommend calling that RAMP card just to make it easy for yourself, how to code transactions manually. So that's just doing it at the individual level, or how to create those category, merchant, and card level rules, whether that's within your settings and accounting automation, or whether you're making them by doing the little lightning bolt and creating the rule that way. And then how to mark transactions as ready, and then finally how to sync them over to your ERP.